All right, so me and my wife went down to Hocking Hills, Ohio for our 10th wedding anniversary, and we went to this place called Rock House. If you've ever been there or if you're from the area, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're not from the area or if you've never been there, then you need to visit there if you ever go. Rock House is by far my favorite thing that we visited on our trip. So, right behind me here, you'll see there was a lot of names and dates and all kinds of different stuff carved into the stone there. There was quite a few that were very well carved and from quite some time ago, like this one, Lucy Moore and Charles Keynes, June 24th, 1888. This one and a few other ones caught my attention, so I thought that I would take a picture of them and then I would research these people and figure out, what happened to them. So the really interesting thing about Lucy Moore and Charles Keynes is that they did end up getting married. It was 1894 they got married. They lived with each other until their death in 1942. They're both buried in Hocking County, Ohio. The other interesting thing is that Charles Keynes was actually a very well-respected businessman in the local area. This top picture up here is a picture of the Keynes and Wellman Company, which was actually built by Wellman in 1855, and it was a mill, and it started within the city limits of Logan, Ohio, and there was a few years that it was run as a partnership between Keynes and Wellman, but eventually the Keynes family ended up buying out Wellman's interest, and it was fully family run somewhere in the 1860s. In a post here on the Hocking County Historical and Genealogical Society and Museum, it tells a story about August 12th, 1886, when the mill caught on fire and it was a complete loss. Further down in the story, it does say that Charles was the first person after the fire alarm was sounded to go into the building, and he was able to recover the books for the business and was able to get those out of the building so that they didn't go up with the rest of the building. There's down here somewhere, I think there's like a list of 7 or 8 homes that also caught on fire because of the intense heat and the sparks that were going everywhere. There was tons of burning barrels of flour and wood shingles and stuff that were burning. It was very, very hot fire. Just a really interesting story, kind of, and terrible loss. After the fire, this building was built. They resumed operations in 1889, and they were still family run, family owned and operated up until 2018. This is Bill Keynes Jr. and Charles Jr., not the original Charles that we were talking about in the beginning of this video, but descendants. And Bill here, Bill Sr., is the great-grandson of Robert Keynes, who originally bought the mill from Mr. Wellman. Bill is also the grandson to Charles Keynes, who we saw his name engraved in the rock. Now, when Bill's great-grandfather passed away in 1920, he left the company to his 2 sons, William and Charles. Charles had a son named Robert, and Robert is Bill's dad. So that makes 5 generations, including these 2 guys back here, the sons of Bill. Now you'll see here in this newspaper article down here at the bottom that on Tuesday, May 22nd, 2018, the deal was made and finalized to sell the Keynes Brothers Flour Mill to, Metal Milling Company. Bigger outfit. So let's go back here to this rock carving here. Lucy Moore, Charles Keynes, June 24th, 1888. What do we know from all this story that we just read and learned about, well, 1888 was right before they started back up with the new mill. It was not long after that fire. And the other interesting thing is these two lovebirds, I assume, waited until 1894 to get married, which is a considerably long time, especially back in those days. But that just happened to be right before Charles and his brother William bought the mill out and made it a family business. Very interesting. Like I said before, they lived very happily, what I assume would be very happily, being very prominent members of their community. Lucy was a stay-at-home mom basically her entire life. They both died in 1942, just a few, maybe 8 months apart from each other, and are buried in Oak Grove Cemetery in Logan.